morning, guys. Just a quick introduction about myself. So, Praful Poddar, I'm a senior product manager here at Snapdeal, taking care of the communication platforms as one of my primary responsibilities. Basically, what it means is that I ensure that our marketing team is equipped correctly with the right kind of panels and the functionalities, APIs, to make sure that they can send out very targeted emails with the right kind of personalization to our subscriber base. I'll try my best to make good use of these 30 minutes which have been allotted for this webinar. Hope it turns out to be useful for everybody. And Colin tells me that questions will probably be taken up in the end. If you guys have any questions, just feel free to raise them on the webinar, and I'll try my best to answer them during these 30 minutes right now. In case we're not able to do that, we can send follow-up emails to take care of. So, in fact, we're starting with the poll. So how this presentation is actually structured is you'll see some polls coming in the middle, as well as some slides which have some data points around them and some tips. So I'll keep you updated on when they come. So the poll that you see here is basically to so one assumption that I'm having here is that everybody is sort of linked in some way to the marketing strategy or the campaign scheduling strategy at respective companies, or has some idea or the other of how email marketers are working within their company. Request you to please take some time and just use the radio buttons to fill in these polls. The idea is to just have a feel of what kind of audience we're looking at, and some of the things that I'll be talking about in the slides forward would be linked to what kind of experimental campaigns are running in different companies. So 50% of people are saying that they experiment on 1 to 2 days, and it goes down as we go down to 7 days. So what we basically want to take away from this is how often are we actually tweaking our email strategies, and how often are we willing to experiment and go the other way when we are talking about personalization or email marketing, and on how many days that is done. So I'll talk about this and how often should be done as we go along. So quickly, what we'll cover in these 30 minutes. As Pratik had mentioned, it's the webinar is focused on two main topics: analytics and CRM, and how they are linked to email marketing. So what I've tried to do is break them down into three components. I'll be talking about analytics separately, where I'll cover what kind of numbers we can look at and pertaining to email marketing. Then we'll talk about CRM, what basically a CRM is, and in connection to email marketing, what kind of metrics or what kind of values that we probably want to look at, and try and connect them towards the end to see how they can be linked to come up with an effective marketing strategy. So yeah, this is one of the slides that I was talking about, which probably pop up every now and then. It's just some interesting facts that I read off the internet. I have some references towards the end, which you guys can probably take a look at, where these numbers have been pulled from. So if you look at the figure on the right side, it says that there's a lot of, 90% is a huge number that emails are coming as spam to us. And this is more like a poll that was taken in the US, where so they've taken poll from the teams, where they said that these are people who probably be using email the most as we go along, and what do they perceive email marketing as. So the good part for all of us who are linked to email marketing is that at least 44% are saying that it's not going to die. So the key takeaway, I think, is what we want to take away from this slide is we should take this as a challenge rather than anything else. Because the kind of environment that we operate in, and the kind of email, the kind of environment is linked to the internet marketing, and it's changing so fast. It's a lot different, and we need to keep experimenting. So if I give an example, if you look at what an inbox used to look like, say my inbox used to look like a year ago versus what it looks like right now, it's totally different from what it used to be. I have tons of spam coming into my inbox right now, and especially with the new Gmail feature that's come in, where tab structures have been implemented, and given that majority of population is now on Gmail, it's very important to tweak your email strategies, whether it's the from name or the to name or your spam filter rules, and anything for that matter to adapt to these kind of changes. So the key takeaway here is, take email marketing as a challenge, but also be very adept of what changes are going on in the market. So moving on, so this is again an interesting tip that I found of the internet. It says that most people says they don't want to be marketed to, but in the end they just don't want any dictation coming down to them. So again, takeaway from this for me, at least in terms of email marketing, is clearly that we should focus on content, not just in the way we structure subject lines, or we ask the user to come back, or how we interact with the user. So this is, we really have to focus on what kind of tone we are using in terms of our email marketing content. So analytics. So we'll start quickly with the analytics piece. So I noticed I mentioned data 3 times here, and I think it's extremely important to look at what we're doing with the email marketing strategy, and having a macro view as well as a micro view to it. At least for me, in my experience or here at Snapdeal, what we've noticed is that it is very possible to get lost in sort of the macro numbers at times, and not really drill down to detailed campaign level or email ID level or day level data to understand what's working or what's not working. So I'll quickly take an example. So what used to happen at least till 3 to 4 months back is that one of the metrics that we measure really religiously is the revenue that we're getting daily from our email, as well as the number of visits that we get. And on some days it would go down, and by the time we would start analyzing them, looking in deal data, if the numbers would come back up within a day or two, we would stop that midway. So that cycle kept on going for a while, and we realized until we actually drill down to the very micro sort of numbers to understand what is working, what is not working, we're never going to be able to identify what the problem is. So what we actually did, so this is my personal experience, and I would recommend everybody to do that. Just take a couple of days to pull out every sort of data that you can from all your email marketing campaigns, and just list them down by the time of send, to what kind of subject lines were used, to what kind of content was used, to what kind of base it was sent to, and just try and figure out what's working, what's not working. There are plenty of tools that can help us do that. What is important, which I talk about in my slide, is also to identify with that. It's very important to identify what metrics work for a company. It could be very different for the kind of business one operates in, kind of loyalty it sees from a customer, kind of products or services it's trying to sell. And to do that, it's very important to drill down that this is the number that I probably want to look at on a daily basis. Should not be more than 2 to 3 in my opinion, unless otherwise you just end up getting lost in those numbers. And when you see a dip or some drastic change in one of those numbers, then you actually end up drilling down further to understand what's going on. So I've just given a few examples on what kind of numbers we've been looking at internally, and what kind of numbers pertain specifically to the e-commerce market. So one is the revenue per mail sent. Understand this could be a very low number because usually conversions is very low on mails, but it just gives you an idea of what kind of ROI you're getting. Bounce rates very important. The recent change in for example the Yahoo. I don't know how many people are aware of that when Yahoo has sort of disabled 1-year-old email IDs, bounce rates going up could be a drastic impact on IP reputations and deliverability. Churn rates, again, very important. How many people are unsubscribing, how many people are unhappy with your email, how to get them back, or how to understand why they are unsubscribing. You might have noticed a lot of codes and vouchers have started coming from a lot of companies. Do they actually make sense? How often they should be done? So redemption rate of them is a very important metric. Open click rates are again a very standard metric that every email marketer would be tracking. And conversion. So are people landing on the right content when they hit your website or hit the page that you want them to? Is a very so just how applicable it is to them. So these are like the broad metrics that these are just a few examples. The idea behind the slide and putting down these metrics was that to figure out what kind of metrics work for you, it is very important to drill down to micro level data. So I've just pasted a picture here again I found off the web. So these are a few analytical tools that can help in help you in understanding what kind of data you want to look at and what kind of numbers you want to look at. So to give you an example, so at Snapdeal we use Omniture coupled with the open-click data that we again receive back from Octane, as well as some of the data that we get from a database based on revenue numbers, stuff like that, and a combination of all of these with a lot of ratios is what we try and identify as what are the best sort of metrics. So I'm not familiar with all of these, but I thought it'll be useful to just paste this to so that understand what kind of options are available out there in the market. Some of them are even free. So just feel free to explore some of these. It turned out to be very helpful when looking at analytics.